Hi guys, welcome to episode 15 of Last Stitch Effort. My name is Pacasha, and this is my podcast where I talk about my knitting journey, where I'm trying to use up my stash, all of it, and not be wasteful and be a good consumer and a good person. Mostly we talk about knitting, and then I talk about my guilt about not being a good person. Yeah, it's fun here. Welcome. Okay, a little bit washed out, but we're gonna go with it. What I'm wearing. This is called Rocky Fork Pullover, and the designer is Kerri Blumer, and I used Cascade Superwash 220 Superwash, and Ridge Rock, I believe is the color. I had a lot of leftovers after making a blanket, which I'll show you eventually. I ended up not making the blanket as big as I had intended because reasons. And so this is the sweater that came from that. Even though it's superwash, it actually is quite comfortable. It doesn't feel like kind of plasticky or sweaty. You know, it does seem to breathe a little bit, but I'm going to stand up. I'm going to drink water while I show you the features of the sweater. Okay, so here's the neckline. And I've got a shiny shirt underneath. That's why it's kind of poking through, but it's got a nice detail up here. And it's got set-in shoulders. Don't look at the seaming. I'm not good at seaming. It's got some nice ribbing to kind of pull in that waist. I said I was gonna, okay. Anyway, Kerri Blumer has a lot of really cool patterns. So she's a designer to look for, and I'll have her listed below. In case I haven't mentioned it in a long time, I don't do links in my show notes in case you are sensitive to Ravelry, or I'll never say never, but I really don't ever want to have an ad. So you can type it in and do what you will. Everybody gets the information that they need and can find things how they want to find them without any obligations or awkwardness. Well, there's always going to be awkwardness if I'm involved, but I'm not going to send you places. You can go there yourself. I'll just give you information. Anyway, this is a nice little sweater. I don't wear it a whole lot, but I do. I don't know if the color's flattering, but whatever. I mean, it's never stopped me before. I don't know what my undertone is anyway. I think I'm cool, but then I look around my eyes and I'm not, and then I have red in my hair and I'm not, so I don't know. Okay, let's see where we're at. Out of breath. I always think that's weird, like just talking makes you out of breath. I don't know. Let's talk about finished objects. So I have a lot because it's been a few weeks since we've talked, since I've recorded, since I've talked to nobody and shared it with you, the world. Not really. Okay. I made some scrappy socks. I think I talked about them in the last episode. I just picked like some kind of, I don't want to say neutral, but they are kind of like basic, like earth tone type colors. I think gold is really the only color. No, brown is a color. I guess it's not really a shade or tone or whatever. Anyway, this is my good art schooling coming out here. Yes, I just used leftovers, and I did micro stripes with leftovers, so just alternated rows. The pattern is just a basic, I think I did a 1x1 rib, and then I did, I think it's just a 1x1 broken rib, where it's knit one row and then knit one purl one on this part of the sock, and obviously just knit the bottom. I do my decreases along the bottom of the heel instead of here, like some people, just because I like the bias fabric around my heel. It holds that cup up. I think I've talked about that before. Yeah, so it's just like little bits that I use. And yes, all of my finished objects do not have the ends woven in. And I don't block socks anyway, but yeah, you're gonna see some non-blocked hats too. It'll be okay. You'll be all right. I'll be all right. Usually I don't consider that finished, but right now it's finished. Yeah. Yeah, it's done. Yeah. So I did those. And on Ravelry, if you need more information, I do have a page up on Ravelry. I called them my retired librarian socks because, as I've talked about before, I was rewatching Buffy, and I love Giles. And anyway, they called them a retired library right when I was like finishing something up, and it just stuck. So, plus they kind of look like old yellowed books. And those are done. I don't know why I'm taking them off of there. I don't have any other socks to show you, but just flair for the dramatic. Okay. Ooh, don't fall. Flair for the dramatic. Okay, we have some hats. So my daughter needed a lot of Christmas gifts for people, like last minute things, and I usually try to keep a pretty good stack of like basic hats and things like that. And so I just kind of added to that pile, just with some leftovers, trying to use up some little bits, mostly sock yarn. I think I've said before, like when I did kind of a big purge, I put sock yarn enough for like 1 year of Scrappy socks, but I think it's way more than that because I did 3 hats using most of that yarn and it hardly made a dent. I'm just trying to get the lid to stay down on that box. And I mean, I haven't added to that to leftovers, so I don't know what's going on. It's crazy. Okay, so the first pattern, I forgot the designer's name, but I will definitely have it listed below. This is called I think it's called the LOSY hat. I don't know, it's LOSY, which stands for leftover sock yarn. And I made 2 of them. I like this pattern, but I never make it like long enough. I like my hats to kind of go down past an ear. And I find most people usually like that, but I'll put them on for you anyway. And I didn't weave any ends. I don't know if you can tell, but this one just barely. I don't know, maybe with blocking it'll be okay. That's even. Ew, it feels gross. Anyway, it's just kind of a little bit of leftovers from the socks I finished for my friend Mickey. And just kind of grungy-ish colors, which you'll see is kind of a theme. That's what I felt like working with, and I think a lot of people I know like those colors, so yeah. So there's the first hat. Yeah, I can't be specific about the yarn, but I'll give you the pattern, and since it's leftovers anyway, like everybody's hat's gonna look a little different, right? This one is using, it's the same pattern. It's using primarily a sock yarn from Picks Felici sock yarn, and I actually wear the socks. Yeah, I'll show you in a second because I totally forgot to mention those. But yeah, so this one's it's a bit longer. I think I tried to pay attention and add another half an inch or so. Yeah, and I held that with probably some sort of trekking or Zauber ball, maybe. You can't really tell that it changes colors much other than the Felici stripes, but the secondary color, it's kind of hard to differentiate. But yeah, that one turned out nice. I think the sock yarn is called like, it wasn't Cabin, it wasn't, I don't remember, but it's this. These are my dirty socks that I literally just took off my feet. They're clean. They're clean. I'm wearing slippers. I'm clean. Anyway, that was the original pair of socks, and then the hat was made out of leftovers from that sock. pair of socks. Okay, I have one more. And it fell. This one is called Fuss Free Beanie, and the designer is Louise Tilbrook, and she does not have her patterns on Ravelry. They are on her blog, I believe. She has a fantastic Instagram page. I'll link that below too. Oh, you guys. Okay. And this is one of my favorite hats to make. I think the fabric is fantastic. The LOSY, whatever, is a 3x1 rib, all the way through, like including the brim, which kind of, to me, even if I do a smaller needle for the first inch or two, it still flares out. Yeah. This one, on the other hand, has a nice, concise brim, and it's just a 1x1, I think, yeah. And then it goes into that broken rib that I use for the socks, so knit one, and then the next row is knit one, purl one. And you hold two strands together. And this one, oh, it's like, I just got all the browns and like, I think I called this boggy, like just swamp witchy colors. And yeah, I love that. And it kind of flashed. The first color I used, I think it was a Knit Picks Hawthorne. No telling what color it was. Oh, I'll probably telling, but I don't remember. I keep kind of hiccuping, sorry. And that's held with probably a Zauber ball or the trekking left over from that sock. I don't remember. They're very similar looking yarns once they get thrown into that box. So yeah, so it's another one, and this one has more of a cinched top instead of a shaped, but I think it looks great. I think the fabric is super squishy and warm. Has a lot, that waffle weave type pattern is super nice for a hat. It's very warm, even though it's superwash sock yarn. So that's 3 hats. Okay, this is going to be, I say painful, but it's not a finished object, but it has met its end. I have not returned this yarn to the stash since I frogged this project yet, so it's still out of the stash. This used to be a Hello Kitty hat. Okay, I made a hat and ears. I put the ears on before I started embroidering, and I had my daughter try it on. Not cute at all. She didn't like it, I didn't like it, whatever. So I tried something else. I tried a different hat pattern. And this is not to say that the patterns that I used were not good. They were great. Just for a Hello Kitty hat in the fit that she wanted with the ears that she wanted, nothing was working. Oh, I don't know what's in my eye, but it's really unpleasant. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so I just frogged it. This is Barocco Vintage. And I don't particularly like this yarn. Like, not only is it mostly acrylic, I believe, which we all know that I choose, because I have a choice, I choose not to use acrylic if possible. My decision. You do you. And it's like bleached white, and I try not to do anything that color because I am a hot mess, and everybody I know is a hot mess. So nobody really needs to be staining this stuff up. And anyway, so I have a bag of it now. This is one skein, but I mean, they're ears, and the ears were all different sizes, so there's even more balls than that. But I don't really know what to do with this. I'm not returning the ball into my stash numbers, which I'll get to in a minute. I don't really know what to do. I mean, I'm almost tempted to just chuck it, but I'm also thinking maybe Ysolda has a pattern called Auto, which is a little polar bear, and that would be okay for an acrylic yarn, and then I would have a little polar bear gift for somebody who needs a little polar bear. I don't know if I have enough yarn for that. I'm certainly not going to buy another skein of this. Now, that's not to say that vintage isn't nice. Like, it was soft. It felt good. It didn't feel like plastic. I mean, it's just me being picky me. but I'm choosing not to buy this if I don't have to buy it. So I'm certainly not going to make like mittens or something out of this one skein, and I don't really want to mix it with mostly wool yarns for like, you know, the part of color work or something like that. So I kind of just don't know what to do. It's in limbo, purgatory. So it's just gonna go on, I don't know, somewhere, and I'll figure out how to deal with the numbers of that another time. Usually if I rip something out, it's no big deal because you can find something else to do with it, or you will eventually. And this one, like, I bought that yarn for that specific project and it didn't work out, and I don't know. All right, should we do works in progress first? Or since we're at finished objects, let me just give you my numbers. With all of those done and out of the stash, I was able to use a lot of like little balls. Like, not only like I have a listing for like miscellaneous sock yarn scraps, I cut into that, but I also cut into like a few little listings where I only had like, I don't know, 20 grams left, and I used up a few of those, so that was kind of awesome. Still haven't used up all of the miscellaneous sock yarn listing, but that's okay. That box isn't closing anytime soon, so it'll be a while. Remember what I said? Did I say that I might have to put on glasses? Okay, so I don't remember what the starting number would be. I can put that in the notes though. But right now I'm standing at 42,141 grams. And the number of balls of, or types of yarn in my Ravelry stash is now at 267. And it had been sitting at about 270 for a couple months now. So it's nice to see that number moving. Yeah, so looking at it from like number of 50-gram balls just as a average, I'm now at close to about 843. A little bit under, but we're wound up to 843. So that's still a lot of yarn. I don't know. I'm not going to do the math. I think at one point it was a good 8 years before I would use up the stash, but that's not really accounting for like a lot of this. My yardage is lace weight or fingering weight, and primarily most of my stash is that. So I can do a couple of sweaters in like worsted weight and knock out a significant amount of, you know, weight, but not so much yardage. Whereas like, you know, a lace shawl that's going to take me months to make is hardly going to make a dent in anything in here, you know, maybe yardage wise, but not weight wise, and definitely not size wise. So like the top shelf, which you can't even see, is almost all lace weight. There's a little bit of hand spun. And no, I have not spun anything. I don't know, like since I broke my ankle, I just haven't. Like, that just kind of creeps me out, even though I'm doing like exercises. Anyway, so most of this top shelf that you can't even see is lace weight. That's a lot. That's a lot of yardage that is going to take forever to get through. And I mean, and for the most part, these 3 shelves are mostly fingering weight. And then half of the bottom cabinet is fingering weight because it's Knit Picks palette, and then the other half is sweater quantities. So really, I mean, I have some worsted and thicker things on this bottom shelf, but for the most part, like I can plow through a lot of projects, but it's going to be a while before I see any kind of dent. I don't really make reservations. I don't do those either. But I'm trying to get all of my yarn to fit in this cabinet by the end of next year. I think the only thing that's not in this cabinet is my box of sock leftovers, which I don't care if that fits in here. Like, that's just in its own pretty place, you know, like it's decorative or whatever. But I do have a couple of cones in another cabinet like this. This is just a cone, like turned on its side, and shoved in there. Like, I can't even hardly move it. And that's whole scarn. super soft. I've got several cones of those. So if I can, I may have to wind them. Do you think they'd fit better wound? It may take up less space because I don't know how efficient that cone is. You can kind of see. I do have some cones of, I think it's Peary. Brooklyn Tweed was clearing out some stuff, and it's a yarn that they don't have anymore, or that they're not carrying, or that something changed. And I was able to grab a few cones. So, but they're smaller cones, but they're up here. Yeah, they're up on the top shelf, taking up space there too. I don't know if that will help. I don't want to do like smoke and mirrors to make everything fit in here. I would like for this not to be as crammed in, so it's easier to like get things out without things falling down. So that's part of that resolution, but I'm going to call it a goal because I am certainly not resolute. It would be nice. It would be nice. We'll leave it at that. Okay, so let's talk about works in progress. This is a tangled mess. This is Barley Sugar by Ysolda Teague, using Knit Pick Shadow and Larch Heather, discontinued. I'm going to be using 2 balls, which will be 100 grams eventually. I find that to be useful information because before, when I was buying yarn, I would never know how much to get. Like, I finished projects, I took notes, I put it in Ravelry, but especially like with color work or things with multiple yarns or whatever, I'm not really a good judge of how much I should have to say, you know, add stripes or whatever. So I find like how much yarn people use for anything to be absolutely fascinating, and I do try to do that in Ravelry when I can. I've kind of gone in and out of that habit throughout the years, but I'm trying to keep really good track of that because if I'm about to start a project, this is total tangent, but if I'm about to start a project like that's color work, especially, like we will focus on that part especially, I like to know like how much did they use of color A or color B, C, whatever, yardage and grams, because I like to use up my leftovers, and that's like a constant theme, like trying to not have little bits left over. I feel like all of my knitting is knitting leftovers sometimes. But I just want to use them efficiently. Like I want to make sure I have enough of one color, or maybe change things around so I use up that one a little bit more and don't have an awkward 2 grams left over versus using it all up. So constant math. I'm kind of surprised at how much I embrace it, even though I can't really do it very well. Anyway, so I'm going to be, eventually by the end of this, hopefully I will have all 100 grams, which is 2 balls of lace weight from Knit Picks, into this. And it's going to be, it's like a double, 2 loops, an infinity cowl type thing. And you do a provisional cast on, and then this is a brioche. It's just a single color brioche, but it's super squishy and it holds a lot of air, so it's going to be super warm. I moved the stitch marker last night, but it was like down here, so I had like several inches done in the last few weeks, and I just moved it last night because actually I recorded yesterday and it was a mess, so I just decided to re-record today. But that's why that stitch marker's moved. So I actually have done several inches more, but I still have a long way to go. I'm still like, I have tons left of the first ball. I hope that I use most of the second ball, if not all of it. I don't want it to be too long, but Mark, this is for Mark, and he's, 6.5 feet tall, so it can be long and not, I don't know, not be bad, not be in his way. Maybe he'll wrap it 3 times around his neck. Anyway, and I don't really talk about project bags a whole lot. I don't remember to talk about them. Plus I just kind of use whatever's around, but we'll get to that in a bit. This is just in a woolly thistle tote that came with her sock sampler their sock sampler set over the summer, which had some interesting yarns. So actually I did buy it, and I haven't used them all yet. That was loud. But I will. Oh, I know why it was loud. I'm gonna tell you a secret because it's funny. So the other day, my husband and I went to a gas station, and I'm like, I'm gonna get a Twix because I don't do it very often, but sometimes I just want a bit of candy, and they only have the king size, so don't judge me. But so I got a Twix, and I sat down to knit with my Twix. And just, so I picked up this bag, and there was this Twix, huge king size Twix, in my knitting bag. And I had totally forgotten that when we went to the Symphony in Roswell at that gas station, I got a Twix that I really, really wanted. And then I like hid it in my yarn bag so I didn't have to share. So I found it when I was eating my other Twix, and so now I have, now I have two, and it's embarrassing, but it's just hanging out in here in case of emergency. So I guess I'm not only a yarn hoarder, I am a Twix hoarder too. Okay, is that everything? Works in progress? That might be, actually. Is that weird? No, that's not everything. This I started a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't gotten very far. I grabbed my Voolenvine Gosling. This color is called Mooncusser, and it's one of my favorite colors that she does. And I started a shawl, and it's a Heidi Alander shawl. I will type it below, but I'm not going to try to say it because I feel like that is actually being insensitive, how badly I would butcher that name. But starts with an S, and it will be listed below, I promise you. And maybe next time I'll try to Google it or something, how to say it. But it's going to be asymmetrical shawl, and for the most part it's going to be about 2/3 garter and then a nice lace section. Oh, is that a loose needle? Okay. Yeah, so I started it. I did, tiny bit of work, and I haven't really continued. I'll put it up. I think it's going to be really pretty, but I kind of just lost steam, and I don't know, I'm just chasing that finished project high that I got with the Shetland Solstice hat. Like, that was perfect yarn, perfect pattern, perfect everything, and I woke up wanting to work on it, even though I finished it in just a couple of days. Like, I was excited to knit that hat, and I loved every minute of it, and I just not feeling that right now with anything. So I'll work on these, and then until I figure out what I want to work on a lot next. This will just be background stuff, but once again, I'm just in garter stitch blahness right now, and even though my brain is kind of mushy, I really would like to knit something with a chart that's a little bit more, takes a bit more brain power than what I have been giving, because I do find that helps. And this time of year, I think it's especially important to engage my brain, because it's tough. Like, where everybody has loved ones that aren't with them during a time when we focus on our loved ones. And I don't want to say a distraction, but it helps not to get caught up in that. Like, obviously, like, we remembered all the good things about, all the silly things about my dad, like we had steak for Thanksgiving, or not Thanksgiving, Christmas this year, and just talking about like how much he would have liked that over turkey, but he would have preferred that we made a turkey because it's traditional. And I don't know, like, I just have like weird memories, and his birthday's coming up, and I'm not like too sentimental about things, but I have my moments, and I think they drag me down more than I admit. And it's not so much that it's him, but it's how it affects like my daughter and my mom, and yeah. Anyway, I'll get upset if I talk about it. So that is in a bag. I actually kind of treated myself before Christmas. I have had Matter Root bags on my to buy list, like anytime I wanted a treat. I'm trying to do that, like if I'm feeling the need to like buy yarn to make a list, and if it really like is really strong, then I can go from that list because it's well thought out and I can, you know, it usually sits there for a long time. But Matter Root has been on my list of things that I would like to buy and support for years. She used to do just like drawstring bags with screen printed beats on them, and I thought that was the coolest thing, and I never got a beat bag, and she doesn't even do them anymore, which makes me really sad, but I keep checking. But she did have 2 bags, and I bought 2. I'll show you. She had this one with the moon phases, and it's just a drawstring. I prefer drawstrings most of the time. She does have trundle bags, but I don't know, I just felt drawstring was going to work better for me this time. Usually, actually, I prefer a zippered bag, but zippers and knitting don't mix very well. I like my drawstrings to be tight, so there's not like any gap there, because things fall out, and if things, oh my gosh, if things are going to fall out, it's going to fall out of my bag, and it's going to be something that I'm going to be upset about, like really cool stitch markers or whatever. Okay, so I bought that bag, and then I got another, just a little one with a chickadee on it, which is, this is my favorite American bird, which looks very similar to my favorite New Zealand bird, which is it Piwakawaka, which is the fantail. I get tripped up on the Maori words, but I do try to use the Maori words when possible. But yeah, it's a little chickadee. So that will be a sock in there eventually, but it's not working on a sock now. It's weird to not have a sock. I need to figure out who needs a pair of socks, and then we'll go from there. I'm very much in a everybody has everything right now, so I feel wasteful making something. Anyway, let's talk about, I still haven't cast on anything with my Woolfolk tinned yarn. I bought it to make a shawl to match a hinterland dress. Still haven't figured out what I want to do. I do have a I have a couple of shawls kind of like in my mind, but I don't know, haven't been able to sit down and start those yet. Plus, I feel kind of guilty that I haven't worked on Mark's barley sugar much, so I might put in some more work into that before I cast on anything new, just to make myself feel better. Super excited to use up my leftovers from my Shetland solstice hat, which I mentioned in the last podcast. I do have quite a bit left. I still even have a needle in this tiny little bag to just go, like be ready to go with. I think I'm going to do a handkerchief. Still haven't cast that on yet, but since it's in my bag, I want to talk about it. So I got those bags from Matter Root, but I didn't get any other, like I didn't get yarn for Christmas, but I did, since I buy my own stocking stuff, I did get some little stocking stuffers, and I'll show you. These are from Firefly Notes, and they're in cellophane, so you're about to get a nice ASMR experience. I'll try to be kind of quiet, but no promises, because I love ASMR. So I got several little sets. She had like I don't know, had a special, I don't know, with free shipping or something, I don't know. But I got like this set that's called Noir. Oh, that's not gonna work. Okay, let's do that. Anyway, they're these shapes. And I used this star one when I was working on those Scrappy hats, and it's really cool. Like, you can feel when you get to the beginning of the row, so it's really good for in the dark knitting, even though it's like a little black stitch marker, but you can feel it poking out, but not in like a in the way. So there's a moon also, and I mean, they do fit on needles, not huge needles, but the triangle and the circle are bigger for larger needles. So I got that set. mainly because I was curious about how the star and moon would work. I do have a lot of stitch markers. My favorite ones are just like brass rings. However, they disappear. I do my best to keep track of things. I don't lose things a lot. I'm kind of like, when I finish a project, I put away all the stitch markers. I like put everything away. So I usually am pretty good about keeping track, but you know how things go. Anyway, so I kind of needed some just like closed ring, not progress keeper, not dangly, not heavy, just some nice closed ring stitch markers, and that's what I went for. I mean, I went for pretty ones instead of whatever, so maybe, I don't know, support a small business and, I don't know, have something really pretty, so I'm excited. So these are these little cat ones. What are they called? Mixed Meows. And they're so cute, and there's a bunch of different sizes and different metal finishes on that. I mean, okay, I have 2 cats. I am not a cat person. I love my cats, but I am not a cat person. I'm a dog person. But I just couldn't. I mean, how? Oh, they're so cute. I haven't used these ones yet. I'm sure they'll be fine. I'm sure they will work for their intended purpose. Okay, now these guys, both of these came with a progress keeper with the stitch markers. So these are called So Many Hearts. I think that's what they're called. I don't know. These are really cool. This is what actually, I think I saw a post with these on Instagram, and I was like, yep, that's what I have to get. They're like these little hearts. So they're for smaller needles, although I think there's different sizes in here. Maybe not. It's kind of hard to tell. And then there's a tiny little progress keeper that has a heart on it. It's a different heart, but that's it. I got a lot. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel bad. I supported a small business, and they're cute, and they're useful, and they're exactly what I wanted. So my favorite closed ring stitch markers are hexagons, and this is kind of like, I am down to like the last few. I have no idea where they go. I'm super careful with them because they are my absolute favorites. And it's probably been, I've had one set that I've used for like good 5 years, and they're only just now like disappearing. So I felt like it was about time. And since I was there, looking at the hearts, I noticed that they had these, and these are my absolute favorites. So, and this one comes with a little bead progress keeper too, but I'm not going to pull that out because it just makes a lot of noise. And then I got this last one. I've been getting some stitch markers from, what's her name? Woolen Forest. She's had some like raven stitch markers and like gemstone ones, and those kind of dangle, are their progress keepers. This one is a progress keeper too, and it's just a raven because I can't get enough of them. Like I love the ones that are in our yard, even though our cats try to eat them all the time, but I keep trying to feed them and make them my friends, and that's not happening. So I'm buying my friends. Okay, I'll put that back, and then that's the end of that crinkling. Okay, so I did get a few things for Christmas because we celebrate Christmas. I don't know why. Okay. And then those bags. And what else was I going to talk about? There's a couple of things. Mark, I've made Mark several sweaters. He is so knitworthy, especially with sweaters. I don't care that he's 6.5 feet tall because he will wear the crap out of sweaters every single day. But I did notice he lifted his arm like this, and his elbow was almost completely worn through. I don't know. This may be the other elbow, actually. So this week, I'm going to have to figure out how to mend things. Normally with socks, usually when they wear out, by the time they wear out on all of our feet in the family, well, I'm the only one that really wears them much anyway. It wears out in multiple spots, and there are places where if you do like Swiss darning, it's not going to be comfortable to wear anymore. And plus I have so many, so I just throw them away, actually. But there are things that are worth darning, and Mark's sweaters are 100% worth darning because I think that it'll still be comfortable for him, but he works at a desk and his elbow goes on, you know, the table or whatever. So patches aren't really going to work for him. I think they would be too stiff, and as cute as he would be with little suede patches on his sweater, I don't think that's what he's looking for. So I'm going to try my best to darn them really well and seamlessly, hopefully in a color that will work. I'm not sure because I don't have any more of this yarn. So this is, while we're here, oh, he has an exposed, do you see that? I didn't, I'll needle felt that down. It's just the end of a thing, an end, and it's the end of an end. So this is called the Survey Pullover, and I don't remember off the top of my head like the name of the designer, but he has two of these. He has a red one, which is Knit Picks, possibly Garnet Heather, Wool of the Andes, and he wears this one all the time. Red is his favorite color, and I do have two red sweater quantities that he's gonna get, probably a red sweater this next year. And he has a dark gray one in Wool of the Andes, Cobblestone Heather, maybe Marble Heather, one of the mid gray heathers. But I mean, he wears them every single day, and he runs really cold, so like he gets a good 6 months of the year wearing a sweater every day. And I mean, they do pill, but not as much as they should for the amount of wear that he puts on them. But yeah, so I mean, this is a still perfectly good sweater. So I'm gonna try to patch those elbows, not patch, but reinforce them. Oh, I mean, bless him. I kind of freaked out when I saw it. I was like, take off your sweater right now. And he felt like really guilty, and he thought that he put me in a bad mood about it. But no, I mean, I just want to fix it so he can keep wearing it. I think it's great. Whatever. We're good. We're good, Mark. I know you're watching this. I don't mind. I'm scared to fix it, the actual work of fixing it. But the fact that you wore your sweater until it needed to be fixed, I think that's what we should all be looking for in partners. Ooh, that was loud. Okay, so another thing, I have a few notes written down. Like many of you that I follow on Instagram, everybody was kind of moved by Wool in the Forest. Daki from Wool in the Forest put up an episode that she called an Amble and Knit, and it was her second edition of the Amble and Knit, where she just sits and talks about things while she knits, and she's so lovely. I just love her podcast so much, and I will definitely link her below, although you probably already watch her because she's amazing. She's so beautiful. Her work is so beautiful. Just everything she says is exactly what I need to hear when she says it, and she does it in such a calm and gentle way that it just like, it's lovely. But she was talking about her and her parenting and response versus react, and I needed to hear that because that's a big problem with me. And then she was also talking, she's very much conscious about her use of, you know, resources in the world. And so she was talking a lot about, have it written down, excess versus abundance. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I actually would really love for you to go and watch her talk about it, because she is far more concise and eloquent than I could ever be. But just her take on excess versus abundance, and kind of not knitting for the sake of knitting, and you know, the things that I grapple with like week in and week out. She had a good episode about some really important things. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that to make sure that I shared that with you, because yeah, it moved me in a way that I needed to be moved. Like I felt stuck, and yeah, I still feel a little stuck, but that's other things. And then I have things written down once again, pulling out the non-ring light friendly glasses. Okay, this is appropriate for this time of year. I read an article, I think it was in the New York Times, and it was called The Emotional Gamble of a Hand-Knitted Gift. and it was by Britta Lochting, and I think it got picked up by other publications also because I saw it in Seattle Times too. Can we let go of the idea that if we make something for somebody, they have to keep it forever? I feel like I've seen a lot of things over the years of people getting mad because somebody they knit something for donated it, or they go to a thrift store and find something that somebody spent hours on. How could you possibly donate this Afghan or whatever? Can we just stop that? Like, if you make something and give something to somebody, it's out of your hands at that point. Sometimes we do things with the best intentions, and that doesn't mean that somebody didn't appreciate it. Like, I can still appreciate the time that somebody put into something, but there are other things in play here. Like, if you don't have room, if there's so many things. Like, we don't have to keep things. We have to let go of this attachment to things. And yes, even as makers, we put a lot into that. But so what? That was the gift, was you putting thought into making something for somebody. They don't have to keep it forever. That's almost like emotional blackmail. We have to let that go. And I felt kind of that way about a few things. Things I've knit for people, maybe they didn't fit or whatever. I mean, it doesn't even matter the reason. The second I give that to that person, that my job was done. Like, that I need to be okay with whatever that outcome is. It's great if they love it. Maybe they love it for a year and then it doesn't work for them anymore. You know, they're allowed to do that. People are allowed to not keep things in their life that aren't serving them at that time. We got to let it go. Anyway, so the whole article was about, to gift or not to gift, and people getting upset about it and people not caring about it and the different sides. And I think we would all be in a much better position if we can let that go. And I'm not trying to get mad at anybody or, make you feel bad for feeling that way. I understand that feeling. I felt it before, but I think it's a lot more freeing when you can just, when you can let that go. Like, there's just so much already plaguing us day in and day out, what other people do with their things, because once you give a gift, it is not yours, it is theirs. It's very much for lack of a better thinking, I think in Lord of the Rings this happens with the dwarves, but I'm not 100% sure because I mostly just watch the movies and it's been a while since I've read any of the books. But definitely in Harry Potter, the whole thing with the goblins at the bank was that once something is goblin made, then it's never anybody else's. They may lend something, but it always goes back to the goblins. And I can understand that, but holding on to, I'm comparing these grumpy people online to goblins in Harry Potter. Oh, but you know what I mean? Once you give a gift, you've given the gift. That's it. And I will stop at that. So, yeah, because it's not my business. It's not my business what somebody wants to do. But I have things that I'm holding on to out of obligation, and I understand that guilt of holding on to something in fear of offending somebody when that person is never at my house, doesn't understand my business, why I want things the way I want them. So the people pleasing in us is hard to deal with. I feel like I was raised to be a people pleaser. Absolutely. You don't make anybody mad, and the only way you can express any anger is with passive aggressiveness, which I still don't know when I'm being passive aggressive because it is so ingrained in my system. So therefore I don't see it as a bad thing. Because that's the nice way to be mean, right? And I was told you can never be mean, but that was kind of this gray area. And I feel like my true nature is actually more not being mean, but it's taken by my family and my culture specifically, you know, as me being mean for just expressing a blunt opinion that may be different than other people. Not being mean, just saying something. But because it's confrontational, or I don't know. This is not going to be a therapy session, but it is something that I continuously grapple with, is politeness versus getting shit done, for lack of a better term. So anyway, as I get older, that's getting easier, and I'm able to say no. Oh, I am like an MLM target. I cannot say no to anybody. I've sold Mary Kay, like, because somebody asked me to and I couldn't say no. There's so many things that I've done in my life to please other people or to not offend them or whatever, and I'm getting to the point where that's just, it can't happen anymore. I'm getting better at saying no, and that kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying, but not really. I don't know. I just felt like talking, I guess. So ramble. As per usual, I'm gonna let you go. I hope that the imaginary line between this year and the next goes well for you, and you don't have to magically change on a day, but it is a good time to reflect on maybe things that you might want to work on, or that you might want to celebrate. Like, I think it's better to look at the positive side of change versus the negative. So that's kind of what I'm going to do with some thoughts and things that may need to change in my life. So I wish you peace. I wish you happiness. I wish your little bubble has everything that you need. And I love you, and you're wonderful. Thank you for being here, and thanks for leaving a comment below, because I love it. And that's it. I keep saying and I keep wanting to talk, but I really need to go. So love you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.